I genuinely adore the style of Grace, especially compared to other horror games. It's not every day where a Roblox horror goes out of its way to have an abstract and bright style. I love the designs, they're so fun, and today I'll be taking my turn at redesigning them. I'll be redesigning some entities from Grace with my own artistic depictions and thoughts, as well as trying to make them match the lore. With this being said, this isn't me saying that the designs are bad. This is just me redesigning them with my own take. Now, without further ado, we'll be redesigning 3 of them, and let's get started with our entity, which is freaking God. Okay, listen, for majority of my redesigns, I usually take less than an hour. This guy took more than an hour, so I won't be able to fit this whole recording in even with speeding it up. So, in Grace, God isn't really an entity, he doesn't really affect the player that much, but it is said that God in Grace is kind of the reason why the player is there in the first place. And honestly, I would love to see some more direct contact with God as an entity in the game, since I think it would be really cool. Now for this design, it was basically an excuse for me to just play around with the symmetry tool, and I did have a lot of fun with it. I think it's pretty obvious to note, but Grace is clearly inspired by the Bible. It's even listed in the description. And while I don't know that much about it, I will be trying to take some surface level information to inspire this design. So I decided to keep the design black and white, since Grace generally has a more simple style when it comes to coloring, so I'm just gonna keep the same color palette of black and white. Of course, the same eye is gonna be in the middle, but I'm just gonna extend off of it. Now, if you couldn't tell from the sketch already, the design is very much based off of those like biblically accurate angels. However, it's not with like the huge rings and stuff. It's just a plain simpler design compared to those. Now, of course, I'm saying simple, but then you're looking at the sketch and you're probably thinking like, okay, well it doesn't look that simple. But like, I promise in the end, it'll look more simple. Now, in the design, you'll see that I use a lot of motifs of the number 7 throughout it. This is just some surface knowledge, but just like how there are 7 deadly sins, I'm using the 7 motif to represent the 7 heavenly virtues. I displayed this throughout the design mainly with the eyes, giving an inner circle of eyes as 7 as well as an outer circle of eyes 7. I also added 7 arrows coming out from the area around it, and you'll see later, but I add 7 kind of sparkles around it as well. I wanted to add 7 pairs of wings, but I didn't know how I would be able to fit more than like 6. So here it has 6, but like, I would have intended for it to have more, unfortunately. Out of all the designs, by the way, this is the most fun one to draw, and honestly, I hope Grace does add a little bit of more detail if they do plan to show God as an entity in the game, because it would be really fun to see Grace take a turn with their style of a huge God-type being, and I would love to see it in their like geometric abstract style. I think it would be super cool. But anyways, yeah, that's my God design. Tell me what you think, and on to the next one, Carnation. Before I get to talking about the design, you guys should totally subscribe and like and all that stuff, because yes, you should, and if you like this, yes, okay, thank you. Okay, so design-wise, Carnation is actually my favorite entity of all time, and also I really just love Carnation in general, especially since they're like the main entity, but like they're still like really fun even though they're the main one. Now, there is one specific gripe that I've heard many people say, including myself, about Carnation's design, and it's that even though Carnation is named Carnation, Carnation doesn't look exactly like a flower. In fact, I feel like it's because the petals of Carnation are so tilted back that Carnation doesn't really give off that flowery vibe. Now, I really do love Carnation's design, but I decided that, you know what, we gotta give the petals like a bit more fluke to them. They gotta be more sticking out so that they show more of that flower motif. This is relevant to the design, by the way, but I subscribe to that theory of how each of the entities, or at least the main 7 ones, represent the 7 deadly sins. And I think that if Carnation was one of them, it would easily be lust. And I know that some people say Carnation is gluttony, but with how Slugfish just has a gaping wide mouth and just eats the player, I think it's pretty obvious that Carnation is lust and Slugfish is easily gluttony. So for this, I'll be using that deadly sin in Carnation's design. So you'll see that in the eye and around the design, I just give like these little heart motifs in order to solidify this idea. Okay, so going back to that flower thing I said earlier, I made the yellow layer of the flowers more puffed out. I also added these little orange layers of flowers around the sides of the eyes, as I thought it would be cool and it would kind of fit the lashes I added on. I mostly kept the color palette the same. I just added a little bit of orange around it, since I think the pink, orange, and yellow still fits really well, and I don't see why not. Like, it just works. So you can also notice that on the second layer of petals, aka the pink ones, I made it so that the tips of the petals looked like they were kind of wilted, or like burnt. I also added some more glowing effects, especially to the little hearts in the eyes and the pink parts at the end, since I think it would fit really well, and overall just add more to the design. I think that this Carnation design fits pretty well with the style of Grace as well. It's simple, it keeps the same idea, it's just more making it apparent that Carnation is a flower, and just keeping the overall vibe of Carnation. Now for the trail, I decided that, okay, I'll be keeping it the same pink trail, but I also added this little red gradient. I just thought it would be cool. There's no specific design reason why, but it's just fun. Of course, I kept the little pink petals that also come out of the trail, which, by the way, when Grace updated that and added that pink trail with the petals, I thought that was genius. Like, genuinely so cool. Loved it so much. It ties the design all together. Anyways, yeah, I just add some basic pink shading, some basic like peachish lighting, and of course added those little glowing effects, and that's Carnation's design. I think it was super fun. In fact, I showed it to one of my friends and they seemed to really like it, so yeah, tell me what you think, and on to the last design, which is Doombringer. For anyone who didn't stay this long till this part of the video, they're missing out, because I am making the most absolutely peak Doombringer design. Now there was this weird interaction I had while I was drawing this. I was talking to someone about this design, and in this Doombringer design I mentioned that I added horns, and then they said, but Doombringer already has horns. And then I looked at Doombringer, right, the rat, and I was like confused. I was like, no, Doombringer doesn't have horns. And they were like, yes they do, it has red horns. And also I drew on red horns for this design, right? And it's like, are you seeing what I'm drawing or something? And turns out that me and them were both stupid, because I was talking about the Grace Doombringer, and they were talking about the Doombringer, like the Roblox character person, like the one that people know from like Forsaken and stuff, right? It's like, yeah, you know what? It was kind of dumb. But anyways, I low-key had the urge to make him Anthro, like the Rat Master guy from like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but obviously I didn't do that because I don't really know how to draw furries. Actually, maybe I do, who knows. But anyways, so this is a total 360 from the actual Doombringer design, and it's sharp teeth, devilish Doombringer, right? I literally gave like a patch in its body of its skeleton showing and stuff, right? Of course, kept the same color palette, because what are you supposed to change with a rat, bro? Like, I'm not making the rat red, okay? And of course, changed it to have like the Among Us imposter mouth with the long ass tongue and the dripping and everything like that, okay? This entire section is rambling, by the way. Doombringer's cool, but I hate Doombringer. Like, if I ever get the modifier that says cheese to meet you, I'm never clicking it, because I suck at Doombringer, and also I play my game without audio. Some people might call me weird for that, because you can buy like sounds in Grace, but I haven't bought a single sound in Grace, because I don't play Grace with sound. And honestly, would it be beneficial if I did? Yes, maybe, but also like, it doesn't really matter, you know? Anyways, so this is Joey, my Doombringer design. Hopefully I served him justice. I don't know, he's just kind of weird. But yeah, that's Doombringer. Tell me what you think, I guess. And yeah, that's Doombringer. So those were all the designs I did. I think they were pretty good choices, not gonna lie. Doombringer and God seemed like they shouldn't be there, but honestly, why not? I was thinking of redesigning Dozer, but then I was like, no, because Dozer is just like a basic PNG. All I would just be doing is drawing the sun. But yeah, anyways, those are all my thoughts. Please subscribe and drink water.